What's the adult version of finding out Sen at the butthole ice not real? That your good health isn't a given. It can be gone in an instant. It's the greatest entitlement until you lose it. Had a social work professor who used to say the disability community is the largest stigmatized community of which anyone can become a member of at any time. I was lucky/unlucky enough to find this out in childhood. My heart is literally broken, works at a much lower capacity. It means that if I don't exercise to maintain it, I could get a heart attack, and be dead within an hour. It also means if I exercise too much and overexhausted it, I could get a heart attack, and be dead within an hour. Take your good health seriously. If you don't, it's going to bite you harder than you could imagine. I had 48 years of good health, hadn't been to the doctors in 13 years, overnight I was in ICU for 6 months. Necrotizing pancreatitis. Becoming aware of how wrong and uneducated most adults actually are. Becoming aware of how terrible average reasoning/logic ability is and how most can't differentiate that from emotion hit me a lot harder. I used to think education was the main issue. Each birthday as you get older is no longer unlocking a new social privilege or gaining more independence but instead another year closer to what? Retirement? Death. Mail is no longer fun to look at when it's all bills and no longer birthday/Christmas/etc. Cards with money. I've stopped looking at my mail 2 years ago. Life is much better. If it's IRS related, I'll find out electronically, but I'm on top of all of that government bullcrap. I don't even get mail anymore unless it's a package or a birthday card. I moved to Japan a decade ago and have no official connections in my home country, not even a bank account anymore. The few billed services I have in Japan are set up to auto-pay from my account. The only non-package, not from family mail I can remember receiving, addressed to me and not my wife, in the last 6 months was a postcard from immigration telling me my new visa and ID were ready, and a notice from my bank commanding me to send them a copy of said ID to prove I'm still in the country and not a criminal using the account to launder money from overseas. Presumably they'd close the account if I didn't provide the ID. Everyone's answer here is dark or existential, so I'll just put this out there. I finally went to Universal Studios as an adult a few years back and found out the old Nickelodeon Studios building has been turned into a generic, gray building with no life behind it. I was crushed. Edit, referring to the one in Florida of course. This is, by far, the saddest comment yet. To be fair, most of the Redditors who read this will have no idea what you're talking about. People aren't honest and some people are mean just to be cruel. Becoming an adult and having health problems like a sore back. I thought that only happened when you're 50 plus. My knees gave out at 18. I had to accept that I would never again have a well-functioning body. Getting your first adult paycheck and realizing that you can barely scrape by. Oh, the dreams you had. Working hard but not getting a raise or promotion. I had that. Thanks to the company cracking down on overtime, it was hard to get shift covered if someone called in sick. There were a lot of times where I was doing 2 or even 3 people's jobs on a daily basis. Did I get a raise or even recognition for my hard work? Of course not. To add, working, unpaid, greater than 5%, more time/effort to earn a 5%, bonus is wasting/devaluing your time. Same thing goes for a 10%, or 20%, bonus. Or to put it another way, the only way getting a bonus is worth your time is if you have to put in less hours than it pays out. Otherwise it's not a bonus, it's just more work. Realizing that $100 is actually not a lot of money. Skeptical. Having $1,000 isn't a lot. Owing $1,000 is a lot. This is the most terrifying and true thing I've seen in a while. For real. Owing $1,000 feels like owing $1 million when you don't have it. I recently moved out on my own and it is strange spending hundreds of dollars a month on just food. I remember the days when it was a huge deal to have more than $100. Edit, for those wondering what I am eating, I have many dietary restrictions so I have to spend more on food. I can't eat most cheap foods like ramen. I cook all of my meals and end up spending on average about $80 a week. Until you want to spend it on something non-essential. Then it's right back to being a lot of money. For me, it was finding out those HGTV shows are all more or less staged. You think people would lie? On TV? In the UK they're not allowed to sell a staged docuseries type thing as a reality show. If it's presented as a reality show but isn't, you get a disclaimer before it comes on some if the scenes in this program are staged for entertainment purposes, so nobody gets duped. I think that's good to be honest. Less bullcrafting. Your company isn't really your family. Any company that says they're your family is just bullcrafting to get you to work hard for less money. Don't ever trust those effers. Realizing the chick in HR is the company's pal, not yours. I got thrown into an HR management position at a stupidly young age, 23. I honestly and earnestly thought it was my job to take care of the employees. I approached any issue from the "how can I help this person" perspective. Then I had to accompany a manager to an unemployment hearing for someone they had fired. A manager who had praised this former employee constantly was doing everything he could to make a previously valued employee get nothing. That's when I realized my view of HR didn't line up with the actual point of HR. Oh dang, you were that guy, such a bummer to have the realization when you're still in the position. Yeah, it was. It was 15 years ago and I haven't worked in HR since then though, ha. It's called human resources because you are supposed to make humans a resource. Like coal. Now shut up and burn, we've got useless things to make and sell to people who don't want them. HR means human resources. It means you need to treat people like a resource. Employees are like shovels or other tools. You use and abuse them until they go dull or break and you throw them away with the rest of the garbage. That's what HR means. Our HR team got renamed and branded to People and Culture. For the most part they are about the people and culture. Some great things have come in, such as living wage for employees and extended to all contractors, additional paid parental leave with an ease back into work on part-time hours on full-time income, additional insurances, focus on fair pay between genders and also role allocation and more. Edit, spelling. Finding out your parents are flawed humans. The worst part for me isn't even finding out that they're flawed. It's not knowing what advice/life experience they give you that you can trust. It used to be so simple as a kid. I did what they advised and 95% of the time it was right. Nowadays there's so many variables that I feel like unless I get like 3 other references to confirm their advice, I don't feel comfortable doing something based on their word alone anymore. Finding out your parents were psychopaths all along. It doesn't help that parents will often hide the worst aspects of their personality until you turn 18 and then let it all out like you could handle it. Both my parents I respected massively until I turned 20. Now I barely recognize them as the ones who raised me for so long, and I can barely hold a conversation with them without getting angry or depressed that I'm related to them. Figuring out that finding your person or your soulmate is actually pretty rare, and people can fall out of love just as easily as they can fall into it. When something goes terribly wrong in your life, and you realize it's not anybody else's fault but your own. Or when it's nobody's fault, but you still get to deal with all the crap it created. Finding out adults aren't real. We're all just trying to figure it out, no adult switch gets flipped. I had a baby 3 months ago. When people ask, "What's it like, now that you're a mom?" I blue screen. I feel zero connection to being a mom. Yeah, that hit me hard when I actually got into the real world and worked with adults who were like either close to my age, a little younger, and twice my age too. They're all just kids, lol. Worse is they even have kids. Same exact personalities/immaturities. They just have white hair now. I was like blown away. Then died inside a little. Same mistakes, etc. etc. They just have an ego now, thinking they're adults. The universe isn't for you or against you. It simply doesn't care about you at all. Finding out that cashews aren't actually a nut, but the dried stem of the cashew fruit. I was 19 when I found out after I moved to Brazil, and it blew my mind. Realizing that adulthood doesn't just come with its own iron and ironing board, you got to get your own? Finding out that stripper poles spin in place, rather than the performer sliding around them. Depression. No, seriously. When I was little, I was so confused as to how someone could be so sad all of the time. Well, whoop-de-effing do. Realizing there's no such thing as karma, apparent universal justice. Sometimes bad people win and never apparently face consequences. Edit, karma might be the wrong word, I learned from several replies. I'm only talking about a universal justice that we can see, the idea of expecting justice to emerge from the idea of what goes around comes around. Not only that, but how often being in butthole and generally bad person actually gets someone way farther. Finding out that your partner has been lying to you the entire time you've been together. It was about that time I began to realize Sheila was actually a 26-foot-tall lizard from the Paleolithic era. What do you mean, Sanit, the butthole ice not real? Thanks for watching. Comment on what you think was the best part of this video. Subscribing and hitting that notification bell on YouTube is a great way to get our content. You can also watch it on Facebook. A link to our page is in the description. See you soon.